The smallest states often hold the darkest secrets. Connecticut, with its colonial graveyards, mist-filled forests, and centuries-old mansions, is said to be drenched in restless spirits. Here, history clings to every crooked church steeple and every stone wall crumbling in the woods. If you listen closely, the past doesn't whisper, it screams. Tonight, we'll explore 10 of the most haunted places in Connecticut, where the line between the living and the dead has long since blurred. Walk carefully, because once you step into this story, you might not come out alone. 1. Remington Arms Factory, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Once a place of industry and innovation, the sprawling Remington Arms Factory now stands as a hollow giant of broken glass and rust. In the early 20th century, this complex produced millions of rounds of ammunition, but its history is steeped in disaster. Explosions ripped through its halls, killing workers instantly. Fires swept across the factory floors, leaving charred ruins and echoes of screams that some say never faded. Today, the factory is abandoned, its windows shattered, its smokestacks looming like watchtowers. Urban explorers who dare to enter report unsettling phenomena, footsteps echoing across catwalks, even when no one else is there. The clang of machinery in buildings where all equipment lies silent. The stench of smoke that appears and vanishes without warning. Some have seen full-bodied apparitions, men in soiled work clothes, women with soot-covered faces wandering through the skeletal remains of the factory. Others describe a feeling of being stalked, as if unseen eyes peer through every shadow. Paranormal groups have captured chilling EVPs, voices shouting, cries for help, and, most disturbingly, the sound of an explosion replaying itself in the static. The factory may be silent now, but its walls remember. Each gust of wind through its broken panes carries the weight of tragedy, and anyone who lingers too long is left with the feeling that the factory doesn't just echo, it breathes. 2. Sterling Opera House, Darby, Connecticut. At the heart of Darby stands the grand but decaying Sterling Opera House, once a jewel of culture. Opening in 1889 with live theater and vaudeville shows, it's now best known for its otherworldly residents. Investigators have reported children's toys moving on their own across the dusty stage, and EVPs capturing laughter high-pitched and playful, yet echoing with something unnatural. Shadows linger in the balconies, where theatergoers once sat, and many visitors feel watched as they cross the darkened aisles. Perhaps the most chilling encounters come from law enforcement officers who once used the building for training. Some swore they saw children darting between seats, only to find the room completely empty. One investigator left a ball on the stage minutes later. It rolled slowly back toward him, as though nudged by invisible hands. The Opera House still hosts tours, welcoming thrill-seekers curious about its legends. But if you stand alone in the center of the stage, the silence feels heavy, waiting. Would you hear applause or whispers rising from the dark? 3. Captain Grant's Inn, Preston, Connecticut. If you ever wanted to sleep inside a haunting, Captain Grant's Inn offers just that. Built in 1754, this colonial home has witnessed centuries of life, war, and death. Today it operates as a bed and breakfast, but many guests check in only to find they aren't alone in their rooms. The most infamous spot is the Adelaide Room, named after a former resident. Guests here wake to find shadowy figures standing at the foot of their bed, or hear the soft weeping of a woman when no one else is in the house. Some report cold hands brushing their hair, while others wake to the sound of footsteps pacing across creaking floorboards. The owners embrace the haunting, recounting stories of spirits who appear in mirrors, doors that swing open in the night, and even children's laughter echoing down the hallways. Paranormal investigators who stayed overnight captured EVPs of voices, one male, one female, arguing in whispers. But it's not all menace. Some visitors describe the spirits here as protective, almost maternal. Others, however, leave shaken, convinced something followed them home. If you dare to spend a night at Captain Grant's Inn, be prepared for company you never invited. 4. Charter Oak Tree Site, Hartford, Connecticut. Not all hauntings cling to buildings. Some root themselves in the earth. In Hartford, the legend of the Charter Oak Tree lingers long after the tree itself fell. The original oak, massive and ancient, was said to be sacred to native tribes long before colonists arrived. In 1687, Connecticut's colonists hid their royal charter within its hollow trunk to defy British authority, securing their freedom beneath its branches. But with reverence came superstition. Locals believed the tree was a guardian, a living witness to defiance and bloodshed. When a storm finally felled the oak in 1856, people reported strange sights in the area, glowing lights circling the stump, voices whispering from nowhere, shadows stretching impossibly long across the ground. Today, a monument marks the spot, but visitors claim the energy remains. Some feel a static charge in the air, prickling their skin as if the tree still hums with power. Others have seen figures moving through the park at night, pale, translucent, as though bound to the history hidden in its roots. Stand at the site in the dark, and you might feel a brush of wind that doesn't match the weather. Some say it's the breath of the tree itself, reminding you that history never dies. It waits. 5. New London Ledge Lighthouse, Groton, Connecticut. Out in the water, where the waves break cold against the rocks, stands the New London Ledge Lighthouse. Its red brick tower has guided sailors since 1909, but its legacy is more than maritime safety. It's tragedy. The ghost known as Ernie is said to haunt this lonely beacon. Legend has it, Ernie was a keeper whose wife left him for a fisherman. Heartbroken, he climbed to the roof and threw himself into the icy sea below. His body was never found. Since then, keepers have reported strange happenings, doors opening and slamming, tools moving by themselves, radios turning on and off. Coast Guard crews stationed here told of footsteps pacing the floors at night when no one else was awake. One keeper swore he saw Ernie's figure standing at the edge of the light, staring into the water, as if reliving his final moment over and over. The isolation of the lighthouse only deepens the unease. Waves crash relentlessly against its base, and the salt air corrodes everything it touches. Out there, cut off from the world, the difference between memory and haunting becomes blurred. If you were to spend the night alone in that tower, would you be able to tell whether Ernie's footsteps were real or just the sea echoing back your fear? 6. Norwich State Hospital, Preston, Connecticut. On the banks of the Thames River, sprawls another decaying monument to human suffering, Norwich State Hospital. From 1904 until its closure in 1996, it treated the mentally ill, the criminally insane, and those society wanted to forget. Many never left alive. Their stories linger in the peeling paint and endless hallways of the 70-building complex. Even now, trespassers and investigators swear the hospital is alive with echoes. Disembodied footsteps clatter down stairwells. Apparitions dressed in hospital gowns shuffle through the wards, their eyes vacant and faces pale. Some say screams can still be heard rising from the basements, where violent patients were restrained in padded cells. The morgue is perhaps the most unsettling of all. Those who step inside describe a crushing weight in the chest, as if the dead resent being disturbed. Photos taken here often reveal figures in the corners, too solid to be tricks of the light. Legends say the spirits here are restless because of how they lived and how they died confined, mistreated, and forgotten. The grounds are now fenced off, but even from the road, people claim to hear faint cries carried on the wind. Imagine standing there at dusk, looking up at the shattered windows and realizing something is looking back. 7. Fairfield Hills State Hospital, Newtown, Connecticut. Behind its red brick walls and endless tunnels, Fairfield Hills holds a history steeped in both medical ambition and human despair. Opened in 1931, it once housed over 4,000 patients. Treatments here ranged from insulin shock therapy to lobotomies procedures meant to cure, but which instead left scars deeper than flesh. Today, the hospital is closed, its buildings standing silent, but silence doesn't mean empty. Visitors have reported doors slamming in abandoned corridors, wheelchairs rolling across cracked tile floors, and shadows pacing behind boarded windows. In the underground tunnels still stretching for miles, the air grows thick and damp, carrying whispers that don't belong to the living. Locals speak of nurses still making rounds, of patients shuffling through the dark, moaning softly. Paranormal investigators describe EVP recordings filled with disembodied voices pleading, crying, or sometimes just laughing in ways that curdle the blood. Standing outside, the hospital looks like a relic, but if you linger too long, you'll notice a figure in the window watching. It's said that once you enter Fairfield Hills after dark, you're never truly alone again. Something walks beside you, just out of sight, waiting for you to take one step too far into the shadows. 8. Seaside Sanatorium, Waterford, Connecticut. The sea breeze should smell of salt, but here it carries rust and mold. Built in the 1930s as a hospital for children with tuberculosis, Seaside Sanatorium overlooks Long Island Sound like a crumbling sentinel. The building has long been abandoned, its windows shattered, its halls open to the wind, but many believe the patients never left. Wander through, and you might hear the echo of children's voices, high-pitched and hollow, bouncing down corridors that lead nowhere. Doors slam on their own. Cold spots grip your chest like icy hands. Paranormal investigators claim to have captured screams, while others have seen pale figures moving along the balconies, staring out at the water with eyes that never blink. Local legends whisper of suffering, of experimental treatments, of patients fading away in sterile wards while waves crashed just outside their windows. Today, the sanatorium's peeling walls seem to breathe, as though the building itself remembers. Would you risk standing alone in the moonlit courtyard, listening for the sound of children laughing in the dark? If you do, don't be surprised if the laughter grows closer. 9. Dudleytown, Cornwall, Connecticut. Deep in the Litchfield Hills lies a ghost town abandoned long ago, known simply as Dudleytown. The forest has swallowed it, whole stone foundations covered in moss, cellar holes yawning like graves. Locals say the village was cursed from the very beginning, its founders plagued by madness, misfortune, and death. Strange stories bleed out of this place. Visitors report hearing whispers in broad daylight, feeling hands brush their shoulders when no one is there. Photographs come back distorted, filled with streaks of light and shadowy faces that shouldn't exist. The deeper you walk, the quieter the forest grows, until even the birds refuse to sing. Some say the curse came with the Dudley family from England, tied to accusations of treason and deals with dark forces. Others believe the land itself is poisoned, a place where the natural and the supernatural collide. Whatever the truth, people who spend too long here often leave, changed, unsettled, sleepless, convinced that something followed them home. Step into Dudleytown, and you may find that silence isn't peace at all. It's the sound of something waiting. 10. Union Cemetery, Easton, Connecticut. The locals call her the White Lady, a figure in a flowing gown, drifting through the headstones of Union Cemetery, one of the oldest graveyards in New England. If you drive along Stepney Road at night, you may see her step directly into your headlights before vanishing in a burst of cold air. Some drivers have reported slamming on their brakes, convinced they've struck a woman, only to find nothing but tire marks and silence in the road behind them. Founded in the 1600s, Union Cemetery feels ancient, heavy, as though the ground itself remembers more than it should. Ghost hunters have flocked here for decades, calling it the most haunted cemetery in America. Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famed demonologists, claimed to capture her on film. Others have heard weeping voices, strange bursts of laughter, and shadows shifting even when the moon is still. Walk among the stones, and you'll feel watched. The air grows sharp, heavy with the smell of damp earth, as though something is about to rise up from beneath. Some say the White Lady is the spirit of a woman who lost her child centuries ago. Others believe she's an omen, a warning that death itself is close behind. Would you dare stand at the gates at midnight, knowing she could be just a breath away? Connecticut may be small, but within its forests, graveyards, and forgotten buildings dwell stories far larger than the map suggests. From the weeping White Lady of Easton to the restless workers of Bridgeport, this state is proof that hauntings don't need grand castles or endless deserts to thrive. Sometimes, the darkest places hide in plain sight, on quiet roads, or in towns you pass without a second glance. The question is, would you dare to step into them yourself? That's all for today. If you enjoyed this chilling journey, don't forget to like, comment with your favorite haunted location, and subscribe for more weekly videos from the shadows.